Arman was a young boy who lived in a small town. His life looked simple from the outside, but inside he was carrying a storm. Every morning he woke up with heavy thoughts. He often asked himself, why should I even try anymore? He had dreams once, big dreams, but slowly life had crushed them one by one. He wanted to be a writer. He wanted people to read his stories and feel something deep. But whenever he shared his writing, people laughed. Some said, "This is childish." Others said, "You are wasting your time." The cruel words had broken his heart again and again. After so many rejections, he had almost decided to give up forever. That morning was different. Arman was sitting by the window, holding a box full of his old papers. These were his stories, his poems, his failed letters to publishers. He wanted to burn them, to erase all proof of his foolish dreams. He thought, maybe I was never meant to write. Maybe my life is only about struggle and nothing more. But before he could do anything, there was a sound at the door. Knock, knock. It was soft, almost like the wind. Arman opened the door, but no one was there. Instead, on the floor, he found a single envelope. It was old and slightly torn, as if it had been waiting for years to be opened. His hands shook when he picked it up. There was no name written on it, no address, no sign of who had sent it. Only one thing was clear, it was meant for him. He sat on his bed, staring at the envelope. His heart was beating faster than ever. Should he open it? What if it was a prank? What if it was nothing important? Still, something inside him pushed him. He carefully tore the envelope open. Inside was a letter written in shaky handwriting. The ink looked faded, as if the writer had struggled while writing it. Arman began to read. The first line froze him. "Don't give up, your story is not over yet." Arman's eyes widened. How could anyone know what he was about to do today? How could anyone know he was planning to throw away his dreams? The words hit his heart like fire. He read further. The letter spoke about pain, about failure, about broken dreams. But it also spoke about hope. It said that failure was not the end. It said that struggles were not signs of weakness, but signs of strength. For a moment, Arman forgot to breathe. Each word felt like it was written for him. Each line felt like someone was watching him, someone who understood his suffering more than anyone else. He looked around the room. Was someone spying on him? Was this some kind of joke? He went outside, but the street was empty. Only silence and wind answered him. Arman went back inside and read the letter again. His fingers trembled, his eyes filled with tears. He had no idea who wrote it, but the letter came at the exact moment when he needed it the most. That night, he could not sleep. He kept thinking about the letter. He kept hearing the words in his head, "Don't give up, your story is not over yet." He felt confused, scared, and curious at the same time. Who had sent this? How did they know about his pain? And most of all, why did it feel like this letter had the power to change his life? The mysterious letter had become a seed in his heart. A seed of hope. He did not know it yet, but this one piece of paper was going to change everything about his journey. Arman folded the letter carefully and placed it near his bed. His eyes were still full of questions, but deep inside, a small light had started to shine. Maybe, just maybe, his story was not over yet. The night passed slowly for Arman. Sleep never touched his eyes. Every time he closed them, the letter appeared in his mind. The words kept echoing, "Don't give up, your story is not over yet." By morning, he was still confused. His room was quiet, the sunlight touched the walls, but his heart was heavy. He sat on the floor with his old box of papers. Inside were stories that once carried his hope, now they felt like ashes of a dream. Arman's dream had always been simple. Since childhood, he loved writing. When other children played in the streets, he would sit near the river with a notebook. He created worlds from his imagination. Heroes, adventures, emotional tales, his pen never stopped. But reality was cruel. The first time he showed his story to a teacher, she smiled politely and said, "It is okay, but you should focus more on your studies." The words looked soft, but they broke something inside him. He wanted encouragement, but instead, he felt dismissed. Years later, when he gathered courage, He sent his first short story to a local magazine. He waited every day for a reply. 1 month later, the letter came back with just 2 words, "Not accepted." His heart sank. Still, he tried again. He wrote another piece, then another. Rejections came again and again. Some publishers never replied. Some sent cold notes, "Your work is not strong enough." Every rejection stabbed him deeper, and slowly, his confidence died. His friends were no better. When he shared his dream, they laughed. "Writer, do you think stories will feed you?" One of them mocked. Another said, "Stop wasting time, Arman. Dreams don't pay bills." Each word was like poison, spreading inside his heart. His father, a strict man, once found him writing late at night. Instead of support, he shouted, "Why waste your life on useless paper? Get a real job." That night, Arman cried silently. He wanted to scream that writing was not useless, that words were his life. But no one listened. No one believed in him. By now, Arman had stopped showing his writings to anyone. He wrote secretly, then hid the papers in the box under his bed. But even those private pages began to feel meaningless. What was the point of writing if no one cared? This was the pain inside him the day the mysterious letter arrived. He was on the edge of destroying everything. He wanted to burn his stories, erase all proof of his failure. In his mind, his dream was broken beyond repair. But the letter had stopped him. Still, questions haunted him. Who wrote it? Why now? The words were too personal, too perfect, almost as if the writer had seen inside his heart. Arman held the letter again. The ink was faded, but the lines were powerful. One sentence caught his eyes. "Failures are not the end, they are the steps that take you forward." He whispered the words again and again. They gave him a strange feeling, a mix of fear and hope. Could it be true? Could failure really be a step forward, not backward? For the first time in months, he felt a spark. The letter was telling him not to quit. But he was scared too. What if he tried again and failed? What if the pain came back stronger? The broken dream stood before him like a wall. Behind it was everything he had ever wanted, but climbing it seemed impossible. That evening, he walked to the old river where he used to write as a child. The water flowed slowly, carrying with it the sound of peace. He sat on a rock, holding the letter tightly in his hand. He remembered how once he had promised himself, "One day, my words will touch hearts." That promise was buried under years of rejection. But now, the letter had dug it out again. The sun was setting, painting the sky with orange and red. Arman stared at the horizon and whispered, "Should I try one more time?" He felt no answer from the wind, no sign from the sky. Only the paper in his hand seemed to speak. The words inside it told him he still had a chance. And deep inside, though he was still broken, he wanted to believe. Arman did not know it yet, but the letter was not just a piece of paper. It was a mirror showing him who he really was, a dreamer, a fighter, someone who could fall and still rise again. That night, he placed the letter under his pillow. His dream was still broken, but a question had begun to grow inside him. What if this letter is right? What if my story is not over yet? The next morning, Arman woke up earlier than usual. He felt restless, as if something inside him refused to let him stay in bed. His eyes went straight to the letter lying on the small table near his pillow. For a few seconds, he only stared at it, afraid to touch it again. But the paper seemed to call him, like it still had secrets to reveal. He picked it up carefully, unfolding it with trembling hands. The ink looked older in daylight, the handwriting shaky, but the words were alive. He read them slowly, line by line, this time with more attention than before. The first sentence still burned inside him, "Don't give up, your story is not over yet." But as he read further, he noticed something he had missed the first time. Some words were underlined. Some sentences had small marks, almost like the writer wanted him to focus only on those lines. The first underlined line said, "Every failure is not a stop, but a step." Arman whispered the words softly. He thought about his own failures. The rejected stories, the cruel comments, the laughter of his friends, they all felt like heavy chains. But what if they were not chains? What if they were steps leading him somewhere? The second marked line said, even the darkest night will end with sunrise. This line touched him deeply. His life had felt like a long night, full of darkness, pain, and silence. He wondered, could there really be a sunrise waiting for me? He closed his eyes and tried to imagine it, a morning where his words were printed, where people read his stories and felt something. It felt impossible, but the thought gave him warmth. Arman began to believe that this letter was not ordinary. It was not just advice. It was a hidden message, meant to guide him, step by step. But the biggest mystery still stood before him. Who wrote it? He turned the paper around, looking for a name. Nothing. No signature, no clue. It felt almost magical, like the letter had appeared out of nowhere. Arman sat by the window, holding the letter against his chest. The town outside was busy, children running to school, shopkeepers opening shutters, people talking loudly, but Arman felt alone in his own world. A world where a single letter was slowly pulling him back to life. That day, instead of burning his box of writings, he opened it again. He pulled out the pages one by one. Old stories, poems, half-finished ideas. He smiled bitterly at some, tears fell on others. As he read his old words, he thought of another line from the letter, "Your story is not over yet." Something inside him whispered, "Then maybe I should try again." But fear stopped him. He remembered the laughter, the rejections, the pain. His heart said, "Don't risk it." Yet the letter said, "Don't give up." The fight between his fear and hope went on all day. By evening, Arman decided to make a small promise. Not a big one, not a dream of success, but a small step. He whispered to himself, "For 1 week, I will follow the words of this letter. If nothing changes, I will stop forever. But if something changes, I will continue." That night, he picked up his pen after a long time. The ink flowed slowly on the page. His hand shook, his mind doubted, but he kept writing. Each word felt heavy, yet alive. For the first time in months, his soul felt light. Before sleeping, he folded the letter again and placed it near his heart. He whispered, "Whoever you are, thank you." The letter had not only given him hope. It had given him a plan, a secret path forward. A path hidden inside those mysterious lines. Arman did not know it yet, but this small decision, to follow the letter for just 1 week, was going to change the direction of his life forever. And the real mystery of the letter was still waiting to be revealed. Arman's small promise to himself became the start of something new. He told himself he would follow the letter's advice for just 1 week. Nothing more. It sounded simple, but in his heart, he knew it was not going to be easy. The first night, when he picked up his pen again, his hand felt heavy. His mind whispered, "You are wasting time. Nobody cares about your words." But the letter's voice echoed louder, "Don't give up, every failure is a step." So, he wrote. Slowly, with doubt, but he wrote. The next morning, he felt a tiny spark of pride. It had been months since he had written anything. The feeling was not strong, but it was there, like a small flame fighting against the wind. But life outside did not change. His father still looked at him with disappointment. His friends still joked about him. The world still refused to believe in his dream. And that hurt him deeply. One evening, he gathered courage and sent one of his new stories to a magazine. He waited for days, heart full of nervous hope. When the reply finally came, it was the same old line, "Not accepted." Arman sat quietly with the rejection letter in his hand. His chest felt tight, his throat dry. He thought, why am I doing this again? Why am I opening old wounds? The box of his writings was still under his bed. For a moment, he wanted to throw everything away again. The pain of failure was burning stronger than his hope. But then his eyes fell on the mysterious letter. He picked it up with shaking hands. His eyes went straight to the line, "Even the darkest night will end with sunrise." He closed his eyes. "If this is night, then I have to wait for my sunrise," he whispered. So, he tried again. Day after day, night after night, Arman kept writing. Sometimes he wrote with tears, sometimes with anger, but he did not stop. The letter had become his secret weapon. Whenever his heart broke, he read it again. Each word reminded him that he was not alone, that maybe there was still a reason to continue. Still, the struggle was real. Some days, his father's harsh words cut through his soul. Why do you waste your life, Arman? Look at your friends. They earn money, they help their families. And you sit with paper like a fool. Arman did not reply. He only lowered his head. His silence was his shield. Inside, though, the pain grew heavier. But every time he felt like breaking, he held the letter and whispered, "Not yet. My story is not over yet." Weeks turned into months. The rejections kept coming, but so did his words. He began filling notebook after notebook, pouring out everything inside him. The anger, the sadness, the hope, the dreams, everything became ink on paper. At night, when the whole town slept, Arman's room glowed with the weak light of his lamp. His pen scratched against the paper, the sound mixing with the silence of the night. Sometimes he cried while writing, but he never stopped. He remembered another line from the letter, "Every step forward is victory, no matter how small." Slowly, Arman began to feel a change inside himself. The world outside was still the same, full of rejection and doubt, but his heart had become stronger. He was learning that failure was not the end. It was part of the journey. Still, one question never left his mind. Who had written the letter? And why did it feel like the writer knew exactly what he needed? Late at night, he often imagined a stranger watching him, someone who believed in him more than he believed in himself. That thought gave him strength, even when the world gave him none. The struggle was far from over. Arman had no success yet. He had no recognition, no money, no support. But something was different now. He was no longer writing for approval. He was writing because it was who he was. And though he did not know it, his words were slowly carrying him toward a future he could not yet imagine. A future where the meaning of the letter would finally be revealed. For now, the fight continued. The failures continued. But so did Arman. And that was the beginning of change. Months passed like this. Arman's life still looked the same from the outside, an ordinary young man in a small town, struggling with silence and rejection. But inside, something had changed. He was no longer the boy who wanted to burn his stories. He had become the boy who refused to stop writing, no matter what the world said. Still, his heart longed for one small sign that his efforts were not wasted. One tiny proof that his words had meaning. And then, one afternoon, something unexpected happened. Arman was returning from the market when he saw a group of children sitting under a tree. They were reading from a magazine, laughing and pointing at the pages. One of the boys shouted, "Read it again, read it again." Curious, Arman walked closer. His eyes fell on the open page of the magazine. For a moment, he could not breathe. It was his story. The same story he had written weeks ago, late at night, with tears running down his face. The story he had sent to a small local magazine without expecting anything. He had almost forgotten about it. And now, here it was, printed in black ink, carrying his words to the world. Arman's heart raced. His hands shook. He wanted to cry, to laugh, to scream all at once. For years, he had dreamed of this moment, and now it was real. His words were alive outside his notebooks. People were actually reading them. He sat on a nearby bench, watching the children laugh and repeat lines from his story. They didn't know he was the writer. But it didn't matter. They were enjoying his words, and that was enough. When he reached home, he opened the magazine again and again, tracing his name with trembling fingers. By Arman, it said at the bottom of the page. Just 3 simple letters, but they meant the world to him. That night, he placed the magazine beside the mysterious letter. The 2 pieces of paper, one from his own hand, one from an unknown source, lay side by side, shining like treasures. Arman whispered, "It was worth it. Every rejection, every tear, it was all worth it." But the story did not end there. A few days later, he received a letter in the mail. This time, it was from the magazine's editor. They wrote, "Your story touched many hearts. We would like to publish more of your work." Arman read the lines again and again, unable to believe his eyes. For the first time in his life, someone had not only accepted his words but also asked for more. His heart felt light, his soul alive. He quickly pulled out his notebooks, gathering all the stories he had hidden. For years, these pages had felt like useless papers. Now, they were golden. Now, they had a place in the world. But even in his happiness, the mystery of the letter never left him. Each time he looked at his first published story, he thought of the line that had saved him, "Don't give up, your story is not over yet." He wondered, if I had not received that letter, would I have written this story? Would it ever have reached the world? The truth was clear, without that letter, he would have given up. That night, he sat at his desk with both papers in front of him, the letter that had given him hope and the magazine that had given him recognition. He felt gratitude filling his heart. But the questions grew stronger. Who had written the letter? How did they know his pain? Why had it arrived exactly at the moment when he was ready to quit? The mystery wrapped around his happiness like a shadow. Arman promised himself, "One day, I will find out the truth. I will discover who saved me with these words." For now, he held the magazine close to his chest. He felt proud, but also humble. He knew this was only the beginning. There would still be struggles, still be failures, but now he had proof that his words could live. And deep inside, he also knew something else. This journey was not only about becoming a writer. It was also about discovering the hidden truth behind the letter that had changed his life forever. Arman's life began to change slowly. His stories started appearing in more magazines. People in the town who once laughed at him now whispered his name with surprise. Some even came to him for advice. His father did not openly praise him, but Arman noticed the way his eyes softened when he saw the magazines. Yet, no matter how much success he found, one mystery refused to leave his mind. The letter. The faded handwriting. The words that had pulled him back from the edge. Who had written it? And why had it arrived at the exact moment when he needed it most? He kept the letter safe, folded carefully inside a small wooden box. Whenever he felt weak, he opened it again. The words still felt alive, still whispered courage into his heart. But the question remained, who saved me? One evening, while cleaning his room, Arman noticed something strange. At the bottom of the envelope that carried the letter, there was a faint mark, almost invisible. He held it closer to the light. It looked like a small flower drawn in the corner. His heart stopped. He knew this flower. It was the same symbol his mother used to draw in the corner of her notebooks when she was alive. Memories rushed back. His mother had been gentle and kind, always encouraging him when no one else did. She would often say, "One day, your words will shine." But she had passed away years ago, leaving him with only her memories. Tears filled his eyes. Could it be? Could this letter have come from her? He opened the box where he kept her old belongings. Among the books and photos, he found a small notebook she used to write in. On the first page was the same shaky handwriting. His hands trembled as he compared it with the mysterious letter. The style, the curves, the marks, it was the same. The truth hit him like lightning. The letter was from his mother. Suddenly, everything made sense. She must have written it long ago, knowing he would one day need it. Perhaps she had hidden it, or given it to someone to deliver when the time was right. Somehow, it had reached him at the very moment he was about to give up. Arman pressed the letter against his chest, his tears falling freely. He whispered, "You were still guiding me, even after you left. You saved me, Mother." That night, he sat under the same tree where he had once dreamed as a boy. The sky was filled with stars. He looked up and whispered, "I will never give up. I promise you, I will keep writing. Your words will live through me." For the first time in his life, Arman felt complete. The mystery was solved. The letter was not just paper, it was love, faith, and guidance from the one person who had always believed in him. Years later, when Arman became a well-known writer, he often shared his journey with others. People would ask, "What gave you the strength to continue when everything was against you?" He would smile softly and reply, "A letter. A single letter that reminded me my story was not over yet." He never revealed the whole truth to the world. That part he kept in his heart, close to his soul. But whenever he wrote a new story, he signed it with a small symbol, a flower in the corner of the page. A quiet tribute to the woman whose words had saved his life. Arman's journey taught him something he carried forever, that even the smallest message, even a single piece of paper, can change a life. And that no matter how dark the night, sunrise always comes, if we choose not to give up. His mother's letter had given him courage, but his own faith had carried him forward. Together, they had written the greatest story of his life, the story of never giving up.